Lyra walked through the grand halls of the Galactic Dragon Enclave, her small boots echoing softly against the polished metal floor. The air was warm and smelled faintly of ozone and smoke from dragon fire. Massive dragons lounged on platforms high above, their scales glittering in colors no human could name. Some slept, others preened, and a few watched her as she moved. Yet every dragon she passed stepped back, moving away as if she carried some invisible danger. Lyra frowned and looked around. Her auburn hair fell into her face and she pushed it behind her ear. "Why are they afraid of me?" she whispered to herself. She had walked these halls many times before, delivering food and tools and helping care for the younger dragons. Some had liked her, some ignored her, but now even the smallest hatchlings turned and fled at her approach. A massive red dragon, older than any she had ever seen, lifted its head and fixed her with bright yellow eyes. The dragon's wings twitched and it let out a low growl, stepping back as if expecting trouble. Lyra's eyes widened. "I haven't done anything," she said softly. She kept moving, clutching the basket of fruit she carried for the hatchlings. Whispers floated through the hall, carried by the wind and the wings of dragons. "She's the human, the one dragons fear. Keep your distance, don't touch her." Lyra heard the murmurs and shivered. She had no idea what they meant. She was just a girl, a human like any other, yet dragons that had never feared anything else in the galaxy seemed to sense something different in her. Her guardian, Captain Rowan, a tall man with a silver arm and sharp eyes, walked beside her. He had noticed the dragon's strange behavior long before she had. "Lyra," he said quietly, "keep your head down and stay calm. Don't let them see your fear." His voice was calm but firm. "Dragons can sense your thoughts. They react to what they feel, not what you say." Lyra nodded, though she did not fully understand. She had grown up learning to care for smaller creatures, feeding hatchlings and cleaning pens. She had never needed courage before, at least not courage like this. Here, in the presence of creatures who could crush a human with a single swipe, courage had to come from her heart, not her hands. As she moved past the great red dragon, she felt the weight of its gaze on her. She swallowed hard and whispered, "I'm not afraid of you." The dragon's eyes flickered, and it took a hesitant step back. Lyra felt a strange thrill. Somehow, even the smallest words mattered here. Somehow, she was doing something no other human could do. The hall led to the observation deck, where dragons of all sizes watched the young humans and their caretakers. As Lyra approached, a cluster of alien merchants muttered under their breath, pointing at her. "That human? They say the dragons avoid her," one said. "No one knows why. Some whisper it's in her blood." Lyra frowned and slowed her steps. "In my blood?" she thought. She had always been told she was ordinary, that her family was normal humans. Yet now she wondered if there was something she had not known, some secret tied to her lineage. Her heartbeat quickened with both fear and curiosity. She reached the hatchling pens, where young dragons no older than her arm waited for food. The smallest of them squeaked happily when they saw her, but the larger ones recoiled. She set down her basket, arranging fruit and warm blankets for the hatchlings. One curious silver dragon came forward, its scales catching the sunlight. Lyra smiled and gently touched its snout. The dragon sniffed her hand, then bolted back to its mother, trembling. "Even the young ones are scared," Lyra whispered. She looked up at the platform above, where massive dragons slept, their eyes half closed but alert. A chill ran down her spine. There was something in the dragon's memory, some instinct that made them wary of her. She had always assumed it was stories or superstition, but now it felt real, heavy in the air around her. Captain Rowan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Lyra, there is more to your family than you know," he said softly. "I've seen dragons hesitate to touch you since you were a child. Something in your bloodline makes them pause, something they remember from long ago." Lyra's eyes widened. "My bloodline? What do you mean?" He shook his head. "Not now. Soon you will understand. But for today, stay calm, be careful, and trust yourself. You have a gift, whether you like it or not." Before she could respond, the chamber doors opened, and a new wave of dragons entered. They stopped immediately when they saw Lyra, moving back as if obeying an unspoken command. She felt the vibrations in the floor from their wings, the quiet hum of power surrounding her. For a moment, the world felt larger, older, and more alive than she had ever imagined. She realized she was not just a visitor here, she was part of something ancient. Something the dragons remembered. That night, Lyra sat in her small quarters, unable to sleep. The events of the day replayed in her mind. The way dragons had stepped back, the whispers of the merchants, and Captain Rowan's words about her bloodline. She held a small pendant that had belonged to her mother, a simple silver chain with a tiny dragon etched on it. She traced it with her fingers, feeling a strange warmth. A memory flashed before her eyes, a woman she had never met, standing tall and proud before a line of dragons, commanding them with a calm authority that made them obey without question. Lyra gasped and pulled the blanket closer around her. Who was she? She whispered. Was that my grandmother? Her dreams that night were filled with visions of dragons bowing, flying alongside a tall human woman with silver hair, and worlds changing because of her presence. Lyra awoke with a start, her heart racing. The next morning, a message arrived through the Enclave's communication network. It was short but clear. Your grandmother has awakened. Come to the Nebula Station. The dragons await. Lyra felt a shiver run through her body. She had questions and 1,000 fears, but beneath it all was a spark of excitement. She knew the journey ahead would change everything. Not just for her but for the dragons, the humans, and the galaxy itself. She looked around the hall one last time. The dragons that had stepped back yesterday now watched her with something new in their eyes, curiosity and cautious respect. Lyra straightened her back and whispered, I'm ready. She picked up her basket and followed Captain Rowan out of the Enclave, stepping into the unknown, unaware that the secrets of her bloodline, and the power of her grandmother, would soon reveal why no dragon had dared to approach her until now. The galaxy waited quietly and so did the dragons. Something extraordinary was about to awaken. Lyra stood at the edge of the nebula, staring at the hidden station that floated like a jewel among the swirling clouds of gas and stars. The station's metal surface shimmered with protective runes that glowed faintly, and massive dragon silhouettes circled above, their wings creating wind that buffeted her hair. She shivered, holding her cloak tightly around her shoulders. Even from this distance she could sense the dragons' tension. They would not come closer no matter how much she tried to call them. Captain Rowan stood beside her, adjusting the straps of his utility belt. Stay close, he said. This place hasn't been visited by humans in centuries. And dragons, they sense something here. Something ancient. Lyra swallowed hard. Why do they stay away? She asked, her voice trembling. The dragons above gave low rumbles, wings beating slowly as if in warning. They're not afraid of me alone. Something else is here. Rowan nodded. The station hides secrets that even dragons fear. It's where your grandmother lived long ago before the galaxy forgot her. And now, she's awake. Lyra's heart skipped. My grandmother? She thought. She had grown up without ever knowing her, only stories whispered in fragments and warnings. Her dreams had shown glimpses of a tall woman standing among dragons, but she never imagined the woman was real. As they docked at the station, the dragons circled higher, unwilling to approach. Lyra's stomach churned. She had delivered supplies to dragons before, faced challenges, and seen creatures that could crush humans without thinking. But these dragons were different. They were afraid of something invisible, something tied to the station. And Lyra could feel it too, a weight in the air, a history that whispered through the walls. The doors slid open with a hiss and they stepped inside. The station was quiet, sterile, yet filled with the hum of ancient energy. Crystal panels along the walls pulsed with soft blue light, casting patterns on the floor. Lyra felt like she had entered another world, one that had existed long before she was born. At the center of the station was a large chamber with a glass pod. Inside lay a figure, covered in a thin layer of frost, her silver hair spread around her like a halo. Lyra's breath caught. The woman looked so peaceful, almost asleep, yet Lyra could feel her power even through the pod. That's her, Rowan whispered. Your grandmother. Elra. Lyra stepped closer, feeling a mix of fear and awe. She's real? She asked softly. The woman from my dreams? Rowan nodded. Real and more than you imagine. She was the first human to form a pact with the Dragon Council. She was the one who saved the galaxy from the corrupted dragons centuries ago. And now, she is awake and so is the power she carries. Lyra looked down at her hands, trembling. Why did the dragons fear me? Why did they avoid me all my life? Rowan glanced at her gravely. Because you carry her blood. The same blood that dragons have remembered for centuries. They do not fear you for harm, they fear your power, your connection to the Dragon Council, and the balance your grandmother once protected. It is instinct. They remember even if they cannot explain it. Lyra's mind swirled. She had always thought herself ordinary. She had dreamed of adventure, yes, but she had never imagined that she was linked to dragons in this way. The weight of it pressed on her chest. Suddenly the pod's surface shimmered. A soft hiss filled the chamber and the frost began to melt. Lyra took a step back, her eyes wide. The glass rippled as if alive, and then Elra's eyes opened, bright and sharp, scanning the room. She lifted a hand slowly, her movements careful and precise after centuries of sleep. "My granddaughter," Elra's voice was soft but strong. "You have come." Lyra felt tears prick her eyes. "Grandmother?" "I don't even know where to start," she said. Elra's eyes softened and she spoke slowly. "You start with the truth. The galaxy has forgotten much, and dragons have learned to fear what they do not understand. But you carry my blood. You carry the bond that once united humans and dragons. You are the reason they stepped back, the reason the old pacts were remembered." Lyra looked around, realizing that the dragons outside still hovered, watching from a distance. They had not come inside. They waited. And now she understood why. Her grandmother's power, her presence, and the bloodline Lyra carried were enough to make even the largest, fiercest dragons hesitate. Elra continued, "Long ago, a corrupted faction of dragons betrayed the council. They sought power without respect, without honor. I faced them alone, and through the pact I stopped them. But the memory of that time remained in the minds of all dragons. They fear what humans of our bloodline can do, because they remember the force that protected them, even if they do not understand it fully." Lyra's head spun. I have that blood. That power?" she asked quietly. Elra nodded. "Yes. But it is not a weapon for destruction. It is a bond. A connection. You will learn to use it to lead, not to harm. The dragons sense it instinctively, and that is why they feared you. Not because you are dangerous, but because you are the bridge between our kind and theirs." Before Lyra could reply, the station trembled. A distant roar echoed through the halls, followed by a powerful gust of wind that rattled the doors. One of the dragons from the corrupted faction had arrived, a massive black-scaled beast, its eyes burning with rage. "Not again," Elra whispered, her voice tense. "They never truly went away. They remember the past as well, and they seek to undo what I built." Lyra stepped back, clutching her cloak. "Grandmother, what do we do?" Elra rose slowly from the pod, her silver hair glinting in the blue light. Though frail from her long sleep, her presence was commanding. "We do what we always have done," she said. "We protect the dragons, we protect the galaxy, and we prepare the next generation to take our place. You, Lyra, are that generation." Lyra's heart pounded. She had always wished for adventure, for a life beyond ordinary chores. But now she realized that her destiny was far greater than she had imagined. The dragons outside were waiting, the corrupted faction was near, and her grandmother's legacy rested on her shoulders. Elra stepped forward, placing a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Do not fear the dragons," she said. "They fear us because they remember what we can do. But you must learn to guide them, to show them that humans can be their allies, not their enemies. The galaxy is ready for a new chapter, and it begins with you." Lyra looked out the windows at the dragons circling above. She took a deep breath, feeling the power and history thrumming through the station. She had inherited something extraordinary, something that even the largest dragons recognized instinctively. And now she would learn the truth of her bloodline, her connection to the dragons, and the role she was meant to play. The roar outside grew louder. Lyra straightened her back, gripping her grandmother's hand. "I'm ready," she said. Her voice was steady, small but strong. "Show me everything. I want to understand. I want to help." Elra smiled faintly. "Then your training begins. The dragons will listen, if you learn to speak their language, not with words but with heart." Outside, the dragons hesitated, circling in awe and caution. And in that moment, Lyra understood why they had feared her all her life. The legacy of her grandmother, the forgotten legend, had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Lyra stood at the edge of the landing platform, her heart pounding in her chest. The nebula stretched endlessly around them, clouds of pink and purple swirling with sparks of starlight. Dragons circled overhead, their wings beating slowly, watching. But one dragon, larger and darker than any Lyra had ever seen, descended from the clouds, his black scales glinting in the nebula's light. His eyes, sharp and green like blades, fixed on her with an intensity that made her knees shake. Captain Rowan stepped beside her, his hand on the hilt of his energy blade. "That's Kurath," he said quietly. "He was the leader of the corrupted faction. He survived when your grandmother defeated them centuries ago. And now he's testing you." Lyra swallowed hard. Her grandmother had warned her about this. The corrupted dragons had not disappeared, they were only waiting. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her hands. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. Elra, her grandmother, stepped forward. Though still regaining strength, she stood tall, radiating calm authority. "You can," she said softly. "Remember your bond. The dragons do not fear your strength, they fear what they remember. You must speak to him not with anger but with the connection you carry. Let him see you are not a threat but a guide." Lyra nodded and stepped forward. Her small figure looked fragile compared to Kuratha's massive body, his wings spanning twice her height. He lowered his head, nostrils flaring, smoke curling from them as he rumbled a challenge. "Human," his voice was deep and resonant, "you carry her blood. But blood does not grant power. Step aside." Lyra's hands trembled, but she forced herself to stand taller. She looked directly into Kuratha's eyes. "I am not here to fight you," she said, her voice steady though soft. "I am here to protect the dragons just like my grandmother did. You remember her, don't you?" Kurath hesitated. His eyes flickered with a mixture of recognition and anger. He stomped the platform, sending a small tremor under Lyra's boots. Smoke rose from his nostrils as he hissed, "I remember. And I do not bow to humans." Elra stepped closer. "You must listen," she said, her voice carrying authority even though she was weaker than the dragon. "She is the heir of the heart bond. You cannot harm her and you cannot deny her. Your anger blinds you. You must see the truth." Lyra closed her eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. She reached inside herself, feeling the warmth and energy that ran through her blood, the legacy of her grandmother. She extended her hands slowly toward Kurath, not in threat but in invitation. "I am not your enemy," she whispered. "I carry what my grandmother protected. The bond between humans and dragons. You cannot fight it but you can accept it." For a moment nothing happened. Kurath froze, nostrils flaring, wings twitching. Then his massive head tilted slightly. He lowered his body, his green eyes locking with hers. Something inside him stirred, a memory of centuries past, when humans and dragons had fought together to protect the galaxy. His claws dug into the platform, and smoke poured from his mouth as he exhaled slowly, trying to contain himself. Lyra took a careful step closer. "I know you remember," she said softly. "You remember what my grandmother did. You remember the peace she brought. You don't have to fight anymore. You can choose to help instead." Kuratha's wings twitched, creating gusts that nearly knocked Lyra off balance. She held her ground, heart racing, but her voice remained steady. "I'm not your enemy. I only want to protect you, and the others." For the first time Kurath did not roar or attack. He lowered his head, nostrils close to hers. The vibration of his breath was strong but steady. Lyra felt the power of the heart bond pulsing through her, connecting her to the dragon. She could sense his hesitation, his confusion, and slowly, his respect. You carry her blood," Kurath whispered, his voice rough, almost a growl. "But why should I obey a human?" Lyra took another step forward. "Because you remember her. You remember the trust she gave you. I am not her but I carry her legacy. You do not need to fear me. You need only to understand that the galaxy is bigger than anger, bigger than revenge." Kuratha's massive claws scraped the metal floor, sparks flying. His wings stretched wide, casting shadows across the platform. For a long moment, the nebula was silent except for the sound of his breathing. Lyra held her ground, heart pounding, as if every second might be her last. Finally, the dragon lowered his massive head completely, resting it near the platform in a gesture that Lyra could sense as submission, not defeat. The power of the heart bond flowed between them, invisible yet undeniable. Kurath could not harm her and he knew it. He had faced humans before but never one like this, carrying the bloodline of the woman who had once commanded dragons without anger, without force. Elra's voice came softly from behind Lyra. "You see? You are the bridge now. You do not need to fight. You only need to stand firm and speak with your heart." Lyra looked up at Kuratha's green eyes, no longer filled with anger, but with cautious understanding. "You don't have to fight," she said again, her voice carrying across the platform. "We can protect the galaxy together. You can be free from the past if you choose it." The massive black dragon exhaled slowly, smoke curling from his nostrils. He shifted, coiling his wings carefully, lowering them to the ground. The platform trembled as his weight settled. Then he nudged Lyra gently with his snout, a gesture of acknowledgement, a silent promise that he would follow her guidance. Lyra's eyes widened in surprise. She had never touched a dragon like this before. Her hand rested on his snout, and she felt warmth and power ripple through her fingers. The heart bond was real. It was strong. And she was the heir now. Captain Rowan exhaled, relief in his voice. She did it, he whispered. She faced him and he listened. No one else could have done that. Elra stepped closer, her hand resting on Lyra's shoulder. You have inherited more than blood, she said softly. You have inherited trust, courage, and the ability to guide them. This is only the beginning, Lyra. One dragon is enough to show that humans can lead without force, but the others will follow when they see your heart. Lyra looked at Kurath, whose eyes now held respect and attention rather than anger. The dragon's massive wings flexed, and he stepped back slightly, giving her space but remaining close. The other dragons in the distance, circling high above the nebula, watched carefully. Lyra realized that she had passed the first test, but the journey ahead was still long. I don't feel strong, she whispered. I'm just a girl. You are not just a girl, Elra said. You are the granddaughter of the woman who protected dragons and humans alike. That makes you stronger than you know. Strength is not measured by size or firepower but by heart and courage. You have both in abundance. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the responsibility settle on her shoulders, but also the warmth of possibility. She had faced Kurath, the dragon who challenged her, and she had not faltered. She had shown that the heart bond lived in her, and that humans could lead dragons not with fear, but with understanding. Kurath rumbled low, a sound of agreement that resonated through the platform. Lyra smiled softly, realizing that she had earned his trust and perhaps the trust of the other dragons as well. Elra's hand tightened gently on her shoulder. Now you are ready, she said. The galaxy will test you and you will need to guide dragons, humans, and every being that fears or misunderstands you. But you are not alone. You have the bond. You have the legacy. And you have me. Lyra nodded, feeling the truth of her grandmother's words. She looked out at the nebula, the swirling clouds and distant stars, and then back at Kurath, who lowered his massive head slightly in deference. The challenge had been met. The dragon had listened. And the galaxy, she realized, was ready to follow her lead. The adventure was only beginning, but Lyra understood one thing clearly: she was no ordinary human. She was a bridge between dragons and humans, and the heart bond would guide her through every danger to come. The nebula shimmered around them, filled with the quiet power of dragons and the steady courage of a human girl who had faced the impossible, and had won without raising a hand in violence. The air on the distant planet was thick with tension. Lyra stood at the edge of the cliff, her hair whipping in the strong wind, staring down at the valley below. Smoke curled from broken structures and scorched earth. This world had once been a place of peace, guarded by dragons and humans working together. Now it was scarred by destruction, evidence that the corrupted faction had returned. Captain Rowan stepped beside her, his face grim. We've been warned, he said. The faction your grandmother defeated centuries ago, they are alive and stronger than ever. They've been gathering power, striking worlds that humans and dragons once protected together. Lyra swallowed hard. The thought of facing dragons corrupted by hatred and revenge made her stomach twist. She had faced Kurath before and he had listened because of the heart bond. But this faction, they were different. They had no respect for humans, no memory of peace. Only anger. Elra, her grandmother, stood nearby, her silver hair glinting in the sunlight. Though weaker from centuries of sleep, her presence radiated calm authority. They fear nothing but loss, she said softly. They remember their strength and their betrayal. But they also remember the bond. That is why you must go, Lyra. You must show them a new way. Lyra nodded, gripping the pendant her grandmother had given her. The heart bond pulsed faintly against her chest, a reminder of the connection she carried. She stepped forward, feeling both fear and determination. I'm ready, she whispered. They descended into the valley, the smell of smoke and ash filling their noses. The first dragons they saw were scarred and blackened, their wings tattered, eyes full of suspicion and anger. They circled Lyra, testing her. One of them, a massive purple-scaled dragon with eyes like molten gold, hissed and stomped the ground. You are human, it growled, its voice deep and shaking. Why do you come here? Lyra stepped forward, holding out her hands in a gesture of peace. I come because I want to protect you, she said. I carry the heart bond. I am the granddaughter of Elra who once saved you all. I do not come to fight. I come to help. The dragons hesitated. Some lowered their heads slightly, unsure. Others snapped their jaws, testing her patience. Lyra could feel the weight of centuries pressing on her. These dragons had been hurt, betrayed, and left to suffer. Her words alone might not be enough. Then a roar split the air, louder and darker than any she had heard. From the shadows of the valley, a massive black dragon emerged. Its scales shimmered with corruption, dark energy pulsing along its spine. Lyra felt the air shift, thick with power and anger. This was the leader, more dangerous than any she had faced before. "You think your bond can stop me?" the dragon growled. "I remember your grandmother. I remember her power. But she is gone and you are nothing." Lyra's hands trembled, but she remembered her grandmother's words. Strength was not in size or firepower but in heart and courage. She stepped forward and whispered, "I am not her. But I carry her legacy. The heart bond lives in me. You do not have to fight. You can choose another way." The dragon snarled, smoke curling from its nostrils. Its eyes glowed with fury. "I will not bow." Lyra took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a moment. She reached out with the bond, letting the energy flow from her chest into the dragon's mind. She did not force it. She did not demand. She offered understanding, peace, and connection. For a long moment nothing happened. Then slowly the dragon's eyes softened. The rage in its gaze flickered, replaced by confusion and recognition. Lyra opened her eyes and whispered, "You remember what we once were. You remember the peace my grandmother built. You can choose it again." The dragon roared, not in attack but in frustration at itself. Its wings flexed, stirring the valley with gusts of wind. Finally, it lowered its massive head, just enough to acknowledge Lyra's presence. The bond between them pulsed, invisible but undeniable. The other dragons in the valley watched. Some stepped closer, sensing the change. Lyra realized that the heart bond affected more than just one dragon. It radiated outward, touching those who had once feared or hated humans. Elra's voice came softly behind her. "Do you see, Lyra? You do not need to fight with fire. You need only show them the bond. You are the bridge." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. The corrupted dragons, seeing the trust she had earned, hesitated. Their attacks faltered. Some even stepped forward, curious rather than angry. The battle that might have destroyed the valley was avoided. Lyra realized something important. These dragons feared humans not because of strength, but because humans like her carried something older and stronger than rage. They feared the reminder of the bond, the legacy of trust that her grandmother had once protected. The corrupted leader lifted its head again, massive wings stretching. "You, human," it rumbled, "you carry her blood. You are not weak." Lyra stepped closer, extending her hand again. "I am not here to hurt you," she said softly. "I am here to guide you. We can protect the galaxy together." The dragon hesitated, then lowered its head closer, signaling acceptance. Lyra felt the heart bond strengthen, rippling through the corrupted faction. Slowly, one by one, the other dragons stopped their posturing. They watched, cautious but willing to listen. Captain Rowan exhaled in relief. "You've done it," he whispered. "Even they see the bond now." Elra stepped forward, her silver hair glinting in the sunlight. "Lyra, you have passed a test older than you can imagine. The corrupted faction has returned, but they will listen. You have shown them that the past does not control the future. The heart bond is alive in you and it can guide the galaxy." Lyra looked around at the dragons she had once feared. Now they circled calmly, wings flexing without hostility. The corrupted faction still carried anger, but it was tempered by understanding. Lyra realized the truth. The dragons did not fear her for herself. They feared the power she represented, the legacy of her grandmother, and the reminder that humans and dragons could unite again. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the future pressing on her shoulders. The heart bond was more than a connection. It was responsibility. She had the power to lead, to protect, and to guide dragons and humans alike. The corrupted faction had returned, but the galaxy now had hope. Elra placed her hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Remember this moment. You have faced those who resisted, who sought only power. But you have shown them another way. Courage and trust are stronger than fear. You carry the legacy forward." Lyra nodded, looking at the massive dragons before her. She felt the bond pulsing through her, connecting her to every dragon in the valley. For the first time, she understood what it meant to be the bridge between humans and dragons. The sun dipped low in the nebulous sky, painting the valley in gold and purple. Lyra lifted her head, meeting the gaze of the corrupted leader. The dragon lowered its massive head once more, a silent promise of truce. Around them, other dragons mirrored the gesture. Lyra smiled softly. She knew this was only the beginning. The corrupted faction had returned, but they had also learned to remember. The heart bond was alive. She had earned their trust and she would continue to guide them. The valley was quiet now, filled with dragons who watched her not with anger or fear, but with cautious respect. Lyra stepped forward, feeling the bond strengthen, knowing that she and the dragons could face any challenge together. The galaxy had changed. The corrupted faction had returned, but so had hope. And Lyra, the human girl dragons once feared, now stood as a leader, a bridge and a protector for both dragons and humans. Her journey was far from over, but she no longer felt fear. The heart bond pulsed through her, a reminder that the legacy of her grandmother and the connection between humans and dragons would guide them all into a new era. Lyra stood on the highest cliff of the nebula planet, watching dragons of all sizes gather in the valley below. The sun of the alien star bathed the valley in gold and purple light, reflecting off scales that shimmered like jewels. Around her, Captain Rowan and her grandmother Elra stood silently, their faces filled with pride and quiet anticipation. Today was the day the dragons and humans would finally meet as allies, not as separate worlds. The corrupted faction, now tempered by understanding, moved cautiously to the front. Their massive wings flexed, their claws digging into the ground, but they did not attack. Lyra could feel the heart bond thrumming through her, connecting her to every dragon in the valley. They were aware of her presence, aware of the legacy she carried, and for the first time they were willing to listen. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Dragons of the galaxy," she called, her voice steady and clear, carrying across the valley. "I know many of you have feared humans and some have even fought us. But that fear no longer needs to control our future. My grandmother once protected you. I carry her blood, her bond, and her promise. Together, humans and dragons can protect the galaxy." The dragons shifted, wings beating slowly, some rumbling low in acknowledgement. Kurath, the massive black dragon who had once challenged her, stepped beside her. His eyes, green and deep, held respect now, not anger. He rumbled, a sound that echoed through the valley, like a call for attention. Elra stepped forward, her silver hair shining in the light. "Listen to her," she said, her voice calm and strong. "The heart bond is not just power. It is understanding, trust, and unity. Lyra carries it, and through her we can begin again. We can heal the divisions between our kinds and protect the galaxy from threats that neither humans nor dragons could face alone." Lyra's heart swelled with courage. She had trained, learned, and faced dragons who had hated humans for centuries. She had faced the corrupted faction and emerged without harming them. Now she stood before all the dragons not as a girl but as a bridge between worlds. "Humans," she called next, turning to the small group of caretakers and soldiers behind her. "We have learned from the past. Dragons are not enemies, they are allies. Together we can rebuild, protect, and explore the galaxy as one. Fear is not our guide. Understanding is." The humans nodded, awe and hope in their eyes. They had seen what Lyra could do, how even the fiercest dragons had listened to her. They trusted her not because she was strong in battle, but because she was brave enough to stand, to speak, and to lead with heart. Then the dragons stepped forward, circling slowly, lowering their heads to the humans as a sign of acceptance. Kurath rumbled again, nudging Lyra gently with his snout. Other dragons mirrored his action, approaching the humans cautiously but without hostility. The valley, once filled with tension and fear, now vibrated with a new energy, unity. Lyra smiled, her chest swelling with pride and relief. She could feel the bond growing stronger, the trust spreading among dragons and humans alike. The corrupted faction, once filled with anger and revenge, now walked among the others with cautious peace. Even they were willing to learn from her, to follow her guidance. "Elra," Lyra said softly, looking at her grandmother, "I think we've done it. They're listening. They trust us." Elra smiled, her eyes soft with pride. "Yes, Lyra. But this is only the beginning. The galaxy will test you, test all of us. You must guide them, show them that unity is stronger than fear. That humans and dragons can protect each other and the worlds we share." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle comfortably on her shoulders. She realized that leadership was not about power or dominance. It was about connection, understanding, and courage, the same lessons her grandmother had taught her. A group of smaller dragons, hatchlings and younglings, approached her carefully, chirping softly. Lyra knelt and extended her hand. One silver hatchling sniffed it, then nuzzled against her fingers. Others followed, sensing her calm presence. Lyra laughed quietly, a sound filled with hope. "We will do this together," she whispered. The dragons in the valley began to take flight, circling above humans who had never seen such creatures up close. Lyra could see amazement and wonder in the soldiers' faces. The bond she carried not only protected them but inspired them. Humans and dragons, once divided by fear and misunderstanding, were now united by trust. Kurath landed beside her, bowing his massive head slightly. Lyra reached up, placing her hand on his snout. The connection was strong, unspoken, and full of respect. "We will protect each other," she said quietly. "And we will protect the galaxy together." From the edge of the valley, the other dragons watched, their wings stretching wide as if ready to soar into the stars. The corrupted faction had returned, but they were no longer enemies. They had learned that humans carrying the heart bond could lead without violence, could unite instead of divide. Elra stepped beside Lyra. "You have done more than I ever imagined," she said softly. "The heart bond lives in you, and through it, you will guide humans and dragons to a future they never thought possible. The galaxy is ready for a new alliance, and it begins with you." Lyra looked out at the horizon, the nebula glowing in waves of pink, purple, and gold. She felt the presence of dragons above and around her, humans beside her, and the power of the heart bond flowing steadily through her. This was more than victory. It was a beginning, a new era. The dragons took to the skies, forming patterns that shimmered in the nebula light, a display of strength and unity. Humans watched in awe, understanding finally that they were no longer alone, no longer apart from the creatures they had feared and admired. Lyra felt a sense of calm certainty settle over her. She turned to her grandmother. "What happens now?" she asked. Elra smiled. "Now you teach, you guide, and you protect. The galaxy has waited for a human like you, a human who can bridge worlds. You will face challenges, yes, but you are ready. And the dragons will follow you as they once followed me." Lyra nodded, feeling a surge of courage and hope. "Then we begin," she said, lifting her head to the skies. "Together." Kuroth roared softly, a sound that was not anger but affirmation. The other dragons echoed it in the distance. Lyra felt the vibrations through her chest. She smiled, reaching out to the smaller dragons who chirped and nuzzled her hands. The bond was strong. The alliance was real. For the first time, humans and dragons stood together openly, side by side, ready to protect the galaxy. Lyra realized that fear had been replaced with understanding, doubt replaced with trust. She was no longer just a girl. She was a leader, a guide, and the living symbol of unity. The nebula shone brightly, casting its colors across the valley, over dragons, humans, and the girl who had once been feared. Lyra lifted her arms slowly, and the dragons above responded, circling in a pattern that mirrored her movement. The galaxy watched in silence, knowing that a new era had begun, a new alliance that would change everything. Lyra took a deep breath, the heart bond thrumming in her chest. She looked at the horizon, at the stars and the swirling clouds of the nebula, and whispered, "We are ready." Elra placed a hand on her shoulder one last time. "Yes, Lyra. The galaxy is ready. And so are you." Together, humans and dragons prepared to face the challenges ahead, bound not by fear, but by trust, courage, and the hope of a brighter future. And in that moment, Lyra knew that the heart bond was not just a legacy, it was a promise. A promise of unity, strength, and a new beginning for the galaxy.